Hello everybody, and welcome to the May edition of the Farmer Supply Association Agriculture Report. I'm Randy Klepechka, agronomist with Farmer Supply Association. Well, we're taping on May 11th, and I really need my coat on out here. It's pretty cold out here and kind of unseasonably cool for May 11th, and May 12th, tomorrow's supposed to be even colder with rain, so we're kind of dealing with some unusual weather. But what's new about that? That's kind of the norm anymore, is dealing with unusual weather. So we're in the midst of another 1 to 2 day planting run. That kind of seems to be the story for the spring of 2020. You know, gotten a lot of rain, and we'll get maybe a day or two where farmers are busy trying to get everything done. You know, our store and everybody else's store will be the same way. People wanting stuff done that day, and you just can't get to everybody because there's so much having to be done on one day. So we're doing the best we can. We are, I think, certainly ahead of last year where we were at this time. So, you know, planting progress is really pretty good, especially again compared to last year. I mean, we'd like to be done with rice, but we're not. But we've got better progress than last year. So, you know, I think we're okay there, and we're keep getting these little dry spells, and hopefully we can get pretty much all that acreage planted that we intend to plant by the end of May, because you know our yields will usually hold up pretty good, especially with the hybrids all the way toward the end of May. So anyway, hopefully we can get all that done. The stands of rice this year, as you can see in this field behind me, mostly really good stands of rice this year. And last week I was in fields just, you know, kind of just thinking about how good our stands are this year. And then I finally got in a field that was some really tight dirt, the kind that'll break your pocket knife. And, you know, I had some weak stands in that one field, and rice trying to come up, and hopefully it's made it by then with the rain we got over the weekend. But overall, really good stands. I want to focus mainly on weed control and finish up with a little bit on fertilize. Our residual activities, residual activity from our residual herbicides has been pretty good this year, and we've gotten the range to keep it activated. You know, my rule of thumb is always, you know, if you're going with those label rates of your residual herbicides like Command and such, well, I like to get about 21 days out of the activity of a labeled application. You want to get something overlapped before that 21 days is up, and you usually want to push it a little more than that, but you want to get something out there before that first residual herbicide gives out and runs out, so you don't get any grass coming up between that time. But again, about my rule of thumb, kind of, you want to get 21 days. So if you think you can get 21 days, you want to get a residual overlap there, probably around 14 or so, or even before that, just depending on what the forecast looks like for rain. Get another residual herbicide out there and keep that residual layer active so you don't get any grass emergence out there. Several options are available. You know, some more Command. I mean, most people are going to put Command in their first shot. That's pretty normal. You can use up to 34 ounces of Command. Now, obviously, you know, cut ground, some real sandy ground, you're not going to push those totals to be that much. But you know, in mixed to heavier ground, certainly you can go 34 ounces total in multiple applications for the season. So that's a possibility, is to overlap with more Command. We talked about some pre-mixes that are available with Command in them that you can use too. Obey is faster than Command. That's a good pre-mix to use. Rice One is Command and Prowl. That's a good pre-mix to use. And then of course you got your Prowl, Bolero, and Facet individually. Any kind of combination of any of these is fine. Just get something out there and get it activated, and if you'll do that, you should have pretty good grass control. Generally, what we're seeing out there this year is good grass control for the most part, especially, you know, with that first application with the rains we've had. And again, hopefully you've got something overlapped out there before that first one ran out, and we'll keep getting that good grass control. Once you start getting escapes out there, if you're you know, your pre-emerge, your residuals play out, you want to get you're going to have to start thinking about some post-emerge grass control out there once they play out and you have some escapes. So if you get to that point, hopefully your pre-emerges will hold out and you won't have to worry about that. But if you do have escapes out there, then we've got several options. My first go-to is generally Rice Star, the full label rate of 24 ounces of Rice Star. The good thing about Rice Star, it's good on about all of our kinds of grasses. Barnyard, Springletop, Signal grass, all of them. So that's a good thing about Rice Star. That's kind of my go-to. You really like good moisture for Rice Star, preferably muddy for it to work well. Some other options out there include regiment. It's strictly a barnyard grass as far as grasses go, and you need 4-leaf rice before you put regiment out there. So that's one I use quite a bit if barnyard grass is my only grass out there. Facet, especially if broadleaf signal grass is your main weed out there. I love to watch Facet work on broadleaf signal grass. It's very active on broadleaf signal grass, so that's kind of my go-to with broadleaf signal grass a lot of times. Propanil still has a place. You know, we've got a lot of propanil resistant barnyard grass out there. I sent 10 samples off last fall, and 5 of them were resistant to propanil. I figured it would be more than that, but 5 of them were. So, you know, we got to watch that, but it still has activity on some of the other grasses. So, you know, propanil, rice bow is a good choice right there. Rice bow is a premix of propanil and bolero, so rice bow is a real good option there that has propanil in it. And then, of course, with your clearfield rice, a New Path and Clear Path, which is a premix of Facet and New Path. And then for our full page rices, we have Preface, which is the same thing really as New Path, but Preface is what you must use if you have full page rices. So that's some of your options for grasses. Besides grasses, the things I'm really seeing right now where the residuals are working well, what I'm seeing is sedges starting to come on, and also some black seeded weeds come on. So I want to talk about your options with them. Of course, with nut sedge, our halosulfuron is still working well, and that's either Permit Plus or Gambit. You know, I get a lot of questions about, you know, comparing Gambit and Permit Plus. They both, 1 ounce of Gambit and 3/4 ounce of Permit Plus, both have the same amount of halosulfuron in it, so the same kind of killing ability for the yellow nut sedges in either of those. In fact, they're both made by the same company, so either one of them will be fine for the yellow nut sedge. The difference comes with your broadleaf control. Gambit has a little bit better activity on, you know, probably a handful of broadleaves. It's not way better, but it's a little better on 3 or 4 broadleaves, and it gives you a little bit of residual on broadleaves. So that's something that that might pay off for you in the long run. And also it's usually a few cents cheaper as well. So I kind of lean on Gambit for these applications for yellow nut sedge, especially if there's some broadleaves out in that field as well. Talked last year about the flat sedges and the problem they were becoming because they're resistant to the ALS herbicides. So if you have flat sedge, hope you have bad flat sedge that you put some sharpen out there. It has good pre-activity on our flat sedges, and hopefully you put that out there in those bad fields, and it's helped you a lot on keeping that population down. Some other options, once you have emerged flat sedges, rice bow, again that premix of propanil and bolero. Propanil plus Basagran is a good choice for the flat sedges, and also Loyant, which we had, you know, a lot of bad results and bad views on Loyant a couple of years ago, but it's got some good fits, and certainly flat sedges is one of them, and pigweeds is one of them. So you might want to consider Loyant if you have some flat sedge out in your field you need to take care of. So that's kind of how you take care of the sedges. As far as the black seeds, you know, I think if you've got some Facet in your mix somewhere, that's going to help you with the black seeds. We're talking about coffee bean, indigo, and morning glory. So Facet's going to help you a lot on those. You know, if you get emergence and later on propanil grandstand is a real good choice on the black seeds. There's several different propanil combinations out there that'll help on the black seeds. Also Sharpen's very good on the black seeds as well. So you got several opportunities, and usually a little extra time to take care of those black seeds before they get away from you and become too much of a problem. So that's where we're at with the weed control. You know, by the time May is over with, this earlier rice is going to be ready for some pre-flood nitrogen. I ran some DD50s with our various rice varieties just a couple of days ago, and it's showing that these varieties this rice that came up around the 30th of April, 1st of May, those 2 days in there, and that's when some of that early rice, a lot of it was coming up. So if your rice came up during that period, you know, April 30th to around May 1st, then it shows the optimum stage for pre-flood nitrogen going to be about the last 10 days of May, and we might need to push that forward a little bit with this cold weather we're dealing with right now. But generally around those last 10 days of May, maybe the first day or two of June, is going to be when we need to be thinking about getting that pre-flood nitrogen on them. That's the optimum window. Now, even more important than that is that last day, and we talked about this year, last year, the last day that you can get fertilizer out there and get it activated without losing yield. I think that's a very important date. I know a lot of people don't mess with DD50 anymore, but I think that one date on there is the most important date on there and something you need to be thinking about. And it varies quite a bit by variety. Again, looking at April 30th emergence, Clearfield 151 and Rice Tech 753, the last date to get your nitrogen activated on those two varieties without starting to lose yield is the 2nd of June. 153 is right with those two on the 3rd of June. Full page 7321, the 4th of June. So you can see those Clearfield varieties like 151, 153, and then your Rice Tech 753 and its full page equivalent, the 7321. You're really going to have to get that nitrogen out there pretty quick on those. On the other side, we've got some varieties that you can wait and not lose much yield. So those include Diamond, Titan, Clearfield M04, so the 3 medium grains there, and also Jupiter. Again, so we got 3 medium grains in Diamond right there, where you've got a little more time to play with. If it's a little bit wet, you know, you don't have to be pushing it. You can wait till it dries out and not lose any yield potential. So I kind of keep that in mind, and again, another good reason to run DD50. Finally, on nitrogen, you know, the university has average fertilizer rates for the different varieties, and you know, I think they're good to go by, but there may be some places we can push these a little bit and get our yield potential up there a little bit. So be thinking about maybe trying some of this, especially on varieties that don't lodge, you know, that stand real well on ground where you know that you know you can stand a little more nitrogen without losing that lodging, you know, resistance and things like that. And also varieties that are not bad for sheath blight and other diseases. So, you know, if you haven't tried any of this, might want to try pushing some nitrogen rates just a little bit and see how it works for you on these certain varieties in certain fields. So, again, a lot of stuff to talk about this month with things going on in May, and hopefully things will be shaping up and we can talk more about what's going on in our June program. This has been Randy Klepechka with the May edition of the Farmer Supply Association Agriculture Report.